Russia's Prime Minister Vladimir Putin will soon return to the Kremlin for his third presidential term. It was made official this week after he secured a first-round election win. But despite finishing way ahead of the other candidates, there's a growing feeling that serious challenges still lay ahead for the country's future leader. RT's Alexey Yaroshevsky reports on this.
It was one emotional night for Vladimir Putin.
I promised you we would win, and we have won.
The Prime Minister may have justified his tears by the strong wind, but no one would be surprised if it was caused by the joy of victory. It was hardly a shock, as Putin had been the election's clear front-runner, but the eventual result of almost 64% stunned even those at the helm.
We would never think about such a high result, so it's even higher than we predicted for ourselves. And it shows once again, actually, it proves that Putin is a political figure #1 in this country, and that his potential is yet to be opened totally.
But it's no time to party now. Many experts believe Putin's real challenge, in fact, starts now.
This will be sort of a battle between the two alternative concepts of the state development, coherent development strategies. For myself, I identify the first concept as Putin land. They want Russian political system to be transparent, whereas as Russia's economy, where there will be no nepotism and no corruption. But on the other hand, there's other alternative group of Russia's elite, as well as Russian public, whom I associate with the idea of Putistan. They just need status quo. They need just some handouts from the state. They don't want any change, which is the road to nowhere.
The change manifested itself in the sudden rise of Mikhail Prokhorov. In under 4 months, the Russian billionaire managed to persuade more than 5 million people to vote for him. Many say this new face in the country's politics has serious potential, and Prokhorov already declared an intention to form an opposition party, with Putin promising he would cooperate with it.
He symbolizes the new Russia, its ambition. All other candidates, they are from old, stylish Soviet elite, and they are not, any more leaders of the younger generation.
And figures speak for themselves. Second-place communist leader Zyuganov gained 17% in his 5th campaign for presidency, less than his party had earned at the parliamentary vote. And experts say even this came mostly as protest voting. In the eyes of many, this is a clear signal. It's time for fringe politicians to make way.
In the Western countries, if a party loses the election, its leader is often changed. If it happens again, then he's definitely changed. These guys had lost 3 times prior to this vote.
A lot of those folks are still seen as being somewhat out of touch. The view in the Russian street is, look, these guys had their chance in the 1990s, they screwed things up. We still need stronger leadership than they're able to offer. We need a more concrete program than they have.
Putin will continue his work as Prime Minister for 2 more months, the period which could become crucial and decisive for the country's long-term future.
Vladimir Putin will officially return to the Kremlin on May the 7th. That is when his inauguration takes place. Until then, the president-elect will have to work out a strategy of holding a dialogue between those in power and those in the streets. And given that some are still calling for him to step down, even after such convincing victory, this may prove to be quite a task. Alexey Yaroshevsky, RT, reporting from Moscow.
Now, opposition rallies had taken place in the weeks leading up to the vote, and even after the presidential election outcome, thousands still took to the streets. But the number of those protesting is dwindling, and the nature of the demonstrations is changing as well. RT's Irina Galushko examines what's caused the shift in the protest movement.
When the protesters, unhappy with the results of the presidential elections, took to the streets the day after the vote took place, some kept the police busy. Sergei Udaltsov decided to outstay the allotted 2 hours.
I'm not going to leave this square. I'm staying here until Putin leaves. Where are the tents?
There were no tents, but there was a fountain, which Udaltsov chose as a makeshift stage to make his statements from, and from which police removed him and several dozens of his supporters. The situation repeated itself on Saturday when police pulled Udaltsov from an electricity transformer, again after the opposition rally was officially over. But the antics of the opposition leaders seem to do little to keep people coming to protest rallies.
If that hysteria, that irritation and aggression had continued, it would have alienated the public. No one here wants a revolution, no one wants to fight with police. The people who come to these protests only want change. They don't want bloodshed or violence, which is what can scare them away.
The results of the elections to the State Duma, hotly contested by many, brought tens of thousands out on the streets of Moscow. But the day after presidential elections, barely half of that number showed up to Pushkinskaya Square, and even fewer still to the demonstration on Saturday.
Some of those who did participate in almost every single protest action which took place over the last few months are saying that this protest action, the wave of protest, will subside in the nearest future.
Some blame the lack of a coherent idea and absence of unity among the opposition leaders for the waning support.
I think these people all have a different agenda. Some don't even know why they're here. If I was there, I'd want to see different independent candidates that I could choose from. But I don't think we can really reach any goals by protests like these.
Even some of the most vocal supporters of the movement for fair elections say solid foundations are necessary to carry on with the movement.
Some sort of regulation and structure is needed. Some sort of goals and understanding of what happens next, which could be easily understood by people, are also necessary.
The protest movement, which began as a call for free and fair elections in Russia following the vote for the State Duma, seems to have turned into a haphazard series of gatherings.
They have achieved success in bringing people to the streets and trying to attract more attention to their slogans. But we are now witnessing that their slogans need to be changed. There's a need for a new agenda.
In fact, the rallies seem to have only one slogan, out with Putin. But what to do if he leaves, no one seems to know. In Moscow, Irina Galushko, RT.